Professor Fig had been showing me some basic magic, which I picked up pretty quickly, even with the second-hand wand. I guess it's just my blood to pick up spells fast, right? But before we could head off to Hogwarts, we met George, who had some bad news. Apparently, there's a goblin named Ranrock causing all sorts of trouble. He was connected to Professor Fig's late wife, Miriam. Turns out Miriam had been investigating this goblin, and before she died, she sent a mysterious artifact to Professor Fig. Oh, and get this, I was the only one who could see the glow. What's up with that? But it didn't stop there. A freaking dragon attacked. The carriage we were in got destroyed, and George didn't make it out alive. Fig and I somehow survived thanks to the artifact, which turned out to be a port key. It sucked us into a hidden part of Scotland, right in the middle of some ancient ruins. Miriam had left us a clue there, so we went exploring. I managed to use some magic to break through a barrier, and bam, we ended up in Gringotts, of all places. A goblin led us to Vault 12, which no one had entered in centuries. And let me tell you, it was way more than just a vault. And as we walked through, I noticed a strange glow on a goblin's armband. It was the same glow as the artifact and even the collar of that dragon. Something was definitely connecting all of this. And I knew we were about to uncover something incredible. Professor Fig and I were granted access, but the vault door sealed behind us. The vault wasn't just hiding some treasure. It felt like it was hiding something much more important. Professor Fig suggested I try Revelio, the revealing spell, and when I did, a glowing symbol appeared. It looked like one I'd seen before, but I didn't have time to think about it. As we ventured deeper, the vault seemed to be testing us. There were these glowing symbols on the floor, leading to reflections that didn't match our statues. It was like the whole place was playing a game with us. Naturally, I had to solve it. So I cast Lumos to help me align the statues, and boom, the statues came to life and attacked. I had to fight my way through them using magic, but I got separated from Professor Fig in the chaos. Left all alone, I followed these glowing wisps that seemed to be guiding me to another chamber. That's where I found it, a pensive, where we saw a vision of ancient wizards discussing this powerful magic. And guess what? Turns out only someone like me, someone who could see traces of ancient magic, can understand it. Before we could get more information, goblins arrived, including Ranrock himself. He was demanding whatever we found, but there was no way I was handing it over. A battle broke out, and it was fierce, but we managed to escape, and somehow I ended up at Hogwarts just in time for the sorting ceremony. I may have shown up late, but the sorting had still placed me in Hufflepuff. It felt right. Honestly, loyalty, dedication, and hard work are what I'm all about. After a quick introduction from the headmaster, Professor Weasley showed me to my common room, where I met some friendly faces. Lenora, Arthur, Adelaide, though they all had some questions about my mysterious arrival. The next morning, Professor Weasley handed me a wizard's field guide to help me catch up on all the things that I've missed. Being a fifth year and all, it's going to be a challenging year, but I'm ready for whatever comes my way. I barely had time to settle into my new life when Professor Ronan threw me right into my first charms lesson. We started with the summoning charm, Accio. I partnered up with a classmate, and I managed to pull some books from their hands, which felt pretty awesome for my first try. But of course, Professor Ronan had something more challenging in mind, a game outside to test our control of Accio. I was up first, and while I did well, Natty, my opponent, really gave me a run for my money. The match was intense, but I managed to hold my own. In the end, I didn't win, but Professor Ronan made sure to remind me that we learned the most from our losses. Next up was Defense of the Dark Arts with Professor Hecat. She's basically a legend, having fought off dark wizards in the past. She taught us Levioso, a levitation spell, and we practiced on dummies. After that, she had us duel. I dueled against Sebastian Salo. I wasn't expecting a full-on duel on my first day, but I adapted quickly, and Sebastian was impressed. He even suggested I join an exclusive, unsanctioned dueling club. To me, that sounds kind of intriguing. Professor Weasley pulled me aside. She mentioned extra assignments to help me catch up, just like Professor Ronan said. But there was a bright side. She mentioned a trip to Hogsmeade. I needed supplies, including a new wand. So I picked Natty as my companion, since she already knew the area. Before we left, Professor Ronan taught me Reparo, a spell to fix things. I practiced on the statue and it worked perfectly. Natty and I took the trip, and she shared her experience adjusting to Hogwarts. Along the way, we spotted hippogriffs, talked about the Forbidden Forest, and just admired the beauty of the village in the autumn, literally and figuratively. I stopped at a few shops to gather my supplies. At Ollivander's, I finally got my own wand after trying out a few mismatched ones. When I found the right one, it felt like the wand chose me. It was like a surge of energy. I also grabbed spellcrafts from Thomas Brown, potion recipes from Perry Pippins, and seeds from Timothy Tinsdale. Each shopkeeper gave me some valuable insights into their craft. Just when I thought I could relax and enjoy the village, a huge troll attacked. Natty and I had to team up to take it down. It was chaos, but we did it. Officer Singer and Augustus Hill were there to help us out, and even rewarded me with a set of protective robes. But the danger wasn't over. While relaxing at the Three Broomsticks, I overheard something that made my blood run cold. Ranrock, that dark goblin, was working with Victor Rookwood, a shady figure who clearly had something against me. They seemed to be after me, and I knew that I had made some powerful enemies. Fortunately, Serona, the owner of the Three Broomsticks, helped me fend them off, but it was clear that things were about to get even more dangerous. Hogsmeade was a blast, but it was also a reminder. This adventure is going to be a lot more dangerous than I thought. Professor Fig and I uncovered an ancient locket in Gringotts, and when I read the inscription, a map appeared. The map led to the restriction section of the library, which of course I couldn't get to without permission. So Professor Fig said that I needed to train in defensive magic first. Always a catch, right? Professor Hackett assigned me a bunch of tasks to prove I was ready for whatever came next. And after I completed them, she taught me Incendio, a fire spell. Meanwhile, I joined the dueling club, crossed wands, and quickly worked my way up the ranks. I was getting recognized as a pretty strong duelist, which felt kinda good. But Professor Fig was busy with the headmaster, so I turned to Sebastian, who had a plan. He taught me the disillusionment charm, to sneak around unseen and help distract the librarian while I swiped the key. Inside the restricted section, I found more than just a book. I uncovered ancient magic. This magic was much older than anything I'd encountered before. I had to fight off enchanted guardians to retrieve the book, but when I opened it, some pages were missing. Of course they were missing, because nothing is ever easy. Professor Fig was amazed when I told him about what I saw in the pensive memories. Apparently, a fifth-year student like me could see traces of ancient magic, just like I could. And Hogwarts itself is a stronghold of that magic. Only a few select can understand it, and somehow, I'm one of them. Now, while Fig took the book to London to speak with the minister about George's death, I needed to keep up with my studies, sharpen my magic, and figure out what happened to those missing pages. After the whole Hogsmeade situation, Natty checked in on me, worried about the dark forces closing in, Rookwood, Harlow, and their connection to Ranrock. She revealed that Harlow was planning a poaching operation, and she wanted to investigate it to gather evidence for Officer Singer. Later, I was ambushed by Rookwood's men, Ashwinders, who seemed to be after me for reasons I couldn't quite understand. But with some quick spell work, I managed to fend them off. It left me wondering why they were so interested in me. Fortunately, I ran into Nora Treadwell, a historian studying Merlin's trials. She believes Mallowsweet was the key to activating them, and with her guidance, I completed one of the trials and confirmed her theory. Back at Hogwarts, I attended Professor Sharp's potions class. We brewed Wickenweld's potion, and of course, Gareth Weasley, a self-proclaimed potion prodigy, tried to rope me into stealing a Foop's feather for his experiment. Naturally, I declined, but he went ahead anyways, and his potion exploded, costing Gryffindor house points. Despite the chaos, I managed to brew my potion successfully, earning Professor Sharp's approval. Then I encountered a portrait of Eldridge Diggory, a former minister of magic, who asked for my help solving a decade-old murder case. The case was about Richard Jackdaw, a student who disappeared under mysterious circumstances. and Anne, a girl accused of his murder. I helped Helen Thistlewood, a retired Aura, gain Anne's trust, and we apparated to Azkaban to speak with her. Anne spoke in riddles, hinting that Jackdaw's missing pages were hidden in a cave near Upper Hogsfield. Out of nowhere, Anne attacked, forcing us to leave. I set off to find Jackdaw's cave, hoping to finally uncover the truth. Following in Richard Jackdaw's footsteps, I ventured deep into the ruins, solving puzzles and battling deadly spiders. Along the way, I pieced together the mystery of his disappearance. Finally, I found his remains and the missing pages. But just as I thought I was done, the chamber started flooding. Some sort of ancient magic protected me and guided me to a new place. That's when I met Professor Rackham. Well, a portrait of him, anyways. He recognized my rare ability to see ancient magic and spoke about my potential. But before I could talk further, I needed to retrieve a book, so our conversation had to be cut short. Back at Hogwarts, things weren't slowing down. I had flying lessons with Madame Kagawa, which were a blast, though I did get caught up in some mischief with Everett Clepton. I also got various requests for deliveries, spell practice, and secret meetings. But it was Sebastian Sallow who had something that really caught my attention: the Undercroft. The Undercroft was this hidden space beneath the castle where we could practice forbidden spells. Sebastian taught me Confringo, a blasting curse. But not everyone was cool with it. Ominous, Sebastian's friend, confronted me about being there, but I managed to smooth things over, though tensions were still high. Then Professor Weasley introduced me to the Room of Requirement, this magical space that changes based on your needs. It was perfect for practicing, studying, and preparing for whatever mysteries were coming next. Finally, I got to talk to Professor Fig after his trip to London. He was eager to hear about what I'd uncovered, and boy did I have a lot to share. Those pages led me to an amazing discovery: a hidden room beneath Hogwarts called the Map Chamber. Inside, I met the portrait of Professor Rackham, one of the keepers, who revealed that I needed to complete 4 trials to unlock a powerful form of ancient magic. He showed us a magical map marking the locations of the trials. But things took a darker turn when we realized the goblins, led by Ranrock, were wielding dark magic that could pose a huge threat to the wizarding world if it fell into the wrong hands. Professor Fig and I immediately traveled to the first trial location, San Bakar's Tower. When we got there, we found goblin loyalists had already set up camp outside. We had to sneak inside and avoid getting caught. Inside, we met another keeper, who guided me towards a reservoir of ancient magic that opened on the way to my first real challenge. The challenge itself was tough: magical puzzles, enchanted statues, powerful enemies that required everything that I had learned up to then. But then I pressed on and eventually reached a pensive memory. In the memory, a young witch named Isidore wanted us to use ancient magic. It felt like a key piece of the puzzle, but I knew I needed more information. After completing the trial, I met yet another keeper, Charles Rookwood, who confirmed that I had to finish all of the trials to fully understand their purpose. I finally got into Spinwitches and met Mr. Weeks, the broom merchant. He had just returned from London with new brooms and wanted me to test my flying skills against Imelda Reyes in a time trial. If I succeeded, I'd get a chance to upgrade my broom. Of course, I agreed. It sounded fun, but the pressure was on. Later, I attended Professor Hallwin's class, where I met Poppy Sweeting, a fellow student who's passionate about magical creatures. She introduced me to Highwing, an amazing hippogriff, and told me about the poaching problem in the area. She wanted to investigate the activities of the poachers, so naturally I joined in. In another lesson, I learned the Deposo spell from Professor Sharp, which was great for pushing things away. Then I met up with Serona at the Three Broomsticks, where she introduced me to Lodgok, a goblin willing to share information about Ranrock. He sent me on a mission to retrieve a stolen goblin relic, the Helmet of Urgot. I ventured into a dark tomb to recover the relic, but when I got there, I found that the helmet had already been stolen by Ashwinders. Lodgok was disappointed, but we set out to recover it. After my eventful day at Hogsmeade, Mr. Moon, Hogwarts caretaker, came to me with a strange request. Apparently, something unsettling had happened in the village. A troll had attacked, and even a boggart had shown up. For him, it took the form of a demigeist, which is kind of creepy. Mr. Moon also told me about mysterious statues that only appeared at night, statues that vanished when you remove a moon from them. He was convinced someone was tormenting him with these statues, using a boggart to exploit his deepest fears. He wanted my help to remove them, starting with 2 hidden in the facility tower. So I used the disillusionment charm to sneak around the castle, unlocking hidden doors with Alora Mora. It felt like I was in the middle of a secret mission. But things didn't stop there. Sebastian revealed that his sister Anne had been cursed by dark magic. This curse caused her physical pain at unprecedented moments, and it changed her completely. Anne's condition was a mystery, and Sebastian was determined to help her. However, his uncle Solomon, a former Aura, believed there was no cure. Things got even more complicated when we stumbled upon more clues related to ancient magic. We found secret passageways in an abandoned estate, along with the hidden triptych and runic symbols. This led us to the Keepers, guardians of the ancient magic, who had ties to Hogwarts. It turns out that Isadora Morganach, a former Hogwarts professor, was one of the Keepers, and her journal hinted that even Salazar Slytherin had hidden scriptrums in the castle. Deke greeted me with a knapsack, a magical one designed for gathering and transporting magical beasts. I remembered that Professor Howen had said something about protecting magical creatures, so I eagerly followed Deke's lead and began rescuing puffskins and mooncalves. I even used the slowing charm to capture a flying beast that had been perched in a tree. It was surprisingly satisfying. After a few rescues, we brought the beast back to a special room and basically a magical sanctuary where they could be cared for. If I had too many, Madame Peck and Hosme could rehome the extras. Some of the creatures even provided materials, like puffskin hair, which I could use to craft magical clothing at an enchanted loom. I was learning a lot about magical creatures, and it felt like I was doing something good for my magical world. But the day wasn't all about magical beasts. I also practiced advanced leviation charms, and even learned Wingardium Leviosa in Greenhouse. Natty contacted me telling me to meet her at a hideout she found where they were holding magical beasts. We infiltrated the castle and searched for clues. We were able to find a clue. We also helped Highwing escape from the poachers. The hippogriffs led us back to a safe area where Natty told me that she would contact me after she found more information. I received an urgent owl about Archie Bickle, a young boy who had gone missing. Miss Bickle was frantic, convinced her son had witnessed something terrible, possibly even dark deeds of Thaddeus Harlow. Archie's usual hiding spot was empty, and it seemed like he had disappeared without a trace. Determined to help, I joined the search for him. We followed the clues: his missing satchel, a trail of strange footprints, and used spells like Revelio to uncover hidden traces. With each clue, the sense of urgency grew. If Harlow was after him, time was running out. Amid the search, I found myself thinking about the Thestrals. They have a way of comforting you, despite their eerie appearance. Seeing one reminded me of my own experiences with loss, and how sometimes death and hardships are just part of life. The search took a dark turn, but in the end, we found Archie hidden away. His relief was palatable, and we returned him to his mother, who thanked us tearfully. It was a small victory, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Professor Fig sent me an owl to meet him in the map chamber. He asked if Lockgok would be willing to help us get to Ranrock. Lockgok mentioned that Ranrock had been searching for something. Professor Rookwood informed me that his castle is in the location of the next trial. I informed him that his descendant, Victor Rookwood, was a dark wizard working with Ranrock. He told me to get to the castle quickly and pass the next trial. When Fig and I went to the castle, we overheard a conversation between Victor Rookwood and Ranrock. They were trying to find the location of a store of ancient magic. After they left, we fought our way through their guards to get into the castle. Once we made it inside, we found Professor Rookwood's portrait. He then showed me the location of the next trial. After I entered the trial, I had to solve puzzles and defeat strong statues to get to the next piece of the puzzle. The pensive showed me a memory of Isadora planning to remove pain from her father after he lost his wife. The professors were against the idea because they didn't know what could happen. After the memory, I returned to the map chamber and revealed what I had learned. This is when the next keeper was introduced, Professor Fitzgerald. She said that she needed more time to prepare the next trial, so I decided to go and see Sebastian. He wanted me to talk to Ominous, to have him take us to the entrance of the Salazar Slytherin Scriptorium. I thought it was a bad idea, but I went along with the plan. I then went to go see Poppy. She said that she had found a location of a poacher hideout. We made our way into the hideout, and to our surprise, we found out that they had dragons fighting each other for sport. As we ventured deeper into the tent, we discovered a dragon egg. We decided to take the egg since we couldn't let the baby dragon fall into the wrong hands. We continued down further where we found a fully grown dragon. We had to save her, so we fought the poachers and eventually released the dragon. There were still poachers after the dragon was free, but she took care of them with ease. She then flew out of the tent. The tent was on fire and about to come down, so we had to get out of there. Poppy was so happy that we saved the dragon. She said that we need to return the dragon egg to the mother, but that we should rest for now. So the next day, I finally caught up with Sebastian and Ominous. Ominous didn't want to go to the scriptorium because he thinks that his aunt was killed there. After going in, we were able to convince Ominous to lead us to the scriptorium. We had to solve puzzles to progress through the maze. We eventually came to a sealed door with an engraving of Ominous's aunt, confirming she died here. We discovered that we had to use the Cruciatus curse to open the door. That is why his aunt couldn't escape. I didn't want to learn the spell, so I told Sebastian to use the curse on me. It was the most pain I had ever felt in my life, but we were able to open the door to the scriptorium. Once inside, we found a spell book and left after looking around for a little while. Professor Weasley gave me an extra assignment to gather a field guide page from under the harbor. Then I was to get a book from the library. When I got to the section of the library, there was a girl there that said that she wouldn't give me the book unless I answered her questions. After that test, I grabbed the book and went to Transfiguration class. After the class, Professor Weasley taught me the spell Transfiguration. Then I met up with Adelaide. She said that she was worried about her Uncle Roland. I told her that I would look and see what I could find. I found a campsite with some of Rookwood's men. At that campsite, I had found a map that had a bunch of drawn clues on it. This led me to a cave where Mr. Roland was being held captive. I wasn't able to unlock the door, so he told me that he could unlock it if he had his wand. So I searched and recovered his wand to give it back to him. Then we escaped that place. The next day, I got a message from Lodgok. He wanted to meet up, but I needed someone who spoke gobbledygook. I got one of my friends to help me, and we met up with Lodgok. He sent us into an underground dig site to recover some journal entries. We fought our way through the tunnels and recovered the journals. We then got out of there and gave the journal entries to Lodgok. He told us that Professor Fig's wife, Miriam, had located a repository. He then told us that he'll find out what Ranrock knows, and then from there we parted ways. After I went home for the day, I got an owl from Sebastian. I met up with him, and he told me that he had found the view in the triptych. He also said that he had found an abandoned mine filled with Ranrock's loyalists. He said that they were searching the mine the same way they were searching Ranrock's banner. So we decided to go in full throttle to see what they were up to. We fought our way through the camp, taking down every enemy we came across. After we cleared a path, we entered into the mine. In the mine, we utterly destroyed all of the loyalists without mercy. After searching around, we found the room that the triptych led us to. It turns out that Isadora Morganach created this room and hid it behind ancient magic. We also found a canvas for the triptych in that room as well. We took the canvas back to the Undercroft and completed the second part of the triptych. Sebastian said that he recognized the coast in the triptych and wanted to go there immediately. I said that I think we should wait. Then I told him that I know someone that could help us. Sebastian knew that it was a goblin and said that we shouldn't trust him. Then he started insulting me and then walked off angrily. I returned to the map chamber and informed them that the goblins were looking for another repository. Professor Fitzgerald told me to look at the map. She told me that the next trial was in Hogwarts, in the headmaster's office. I needed to get into the headmaster's office to speak with the portrait to begin the next trial. I went to speak to Professor Fig about getting into the office. He gave me a vial of polyjuice potion to change me into the headmaster. He also said he would distract the headmaster to allow me time to get into his office. I headed to the headmaster's office and encountered quite a few instructors. Professor Sharp had a cure for boils the headmaster had, which was pretty gross. Madam Kagawa wanted to complain about Quidditch, and Professor Weasley wanted to talk about Professor Fig. After getting by all of them, I had to learn the password from the headmaster's assistant, Scrope. I spoke with Scrope and duped him, and I learned the password, and I was able to get into the headmaster's office. Once I got into the headmaster's office, I spoke with Professor Fitzgerald's portrait. She told me to look at the book sitting on the stand. When I looked at it, I was sucked into another world. As I walked through this world, I saw Death himself. Then I had to avoid these smaller beings that looked like Death also. I eventually made it to a magical cloak that allowed me to be completely invisible to Death. Then I made my way to a mysterious wand that gave me power beyond imagination. I briefly fought and annihilated anything that stood in my way, then made it to the final item, which was a mysterious stone. This stone allowed me to conjure a shadow of Professor Fitzgerald. She led me to a pensive memory where I learned that Isadora found a way to contain the magic inside Goblin Silk. She was also inhaling painful emotions as it enhanced her ability to use magic. After the memory, I returned to the map chamber and I was introduced to the final keeper, Professor Bakar. He wanted to speak with the other keepers before revealing the location of the final trial to me, so I decided to return to my studies. After a couple hours of studying, Sebastian hit me up saying to meet him at the coast. So I hopped on my broom and headed right over. He said that he found a large amount of goblins and overheard them say that they're going down into another cavern. We decided to check out what they were doing. As we got closer, Sebastian started becoming reckless, charging into the enemy without thinking. I talked to him and told him to stop being dumb. We eventually made it to the tower tunnel where we encountered spiders and trolls. After taking care of them, we found a letter that Isadora wrote saying that she won't let her magic lie dormant like the keepers. We also found the final canvas piece for the triptych. From there, we discovered a passageway that led back to the Undercroft. We placed the final canvas on the triptych, but nothing happened. Then suddenly, a pensive appeared behind us. We looked into the pensive and saw Isadora speaking to her father, saying that she can't bring her brother back, but she can give him peace. Then, she brought the keepers in and showed them that she could remove the pain from others. But the keepers weren't happy with her. It also showed Isadora speaking with the goblin, asking about a way to store the magic. After the vision, Sebastian was excited that she had found a way to take away the pain from others. But I felt like something wasn't right. Isadora didn't appear in her portrait. Sebastian asked me to speak with the keepers to learn the spell to help Anne, and I told him that I would. Later, Lockgok sent me a message saying that he was looking for the entrance to the mine where Ranrock is searching. I made a way to the mine and started searching for Lockgok. There were a lot of goblins, so I had to defend myself. I kept looking around to find Lockgok, but I came upon Ranrock giving a speech to his men. They had completed another drill, so I decided to destroy all of it. I had to destroy the drill, Ranrock, and his loyalists to end this fight. I was able to destroy the drill, but Ranrock ran up on me. He said that they would just build another drill, and Rookwood caught Lockgok and brought him into where we were. As it turns out, Lockgok is Ranrock's younger brother. Lockgok had brought Bragball's journals to stop Ranrock. After reading the journal, Ranrock got angry because Lockgok knew where the repository was. He then pushed Lockgok to the ground. Once Ranrock got the journal, he said that he didn't need anyone else. He then killed Lockgok. Rookwood tried to cast Avacadabra on Ranrock, but he was able to dodge the attack. The mine started to collapse, so I decided to get out of there. I then went to the map chamber to inform the keepers that Ranrock had the journals. So we quickly decided that I should head to the next trial. I would have to interact with a magical beast to complete the last trial. We made it to the location that the keepers had told us of the last trial, and then we started searching for clues. I was eventually able to find a clue that would help me by uncovering the face of Stone. I was to go and capture a grip form named the Lord of the Shore and bring him back to the trial location. I headed to the shore and located the beast. We had a long and tedious fight, but eventually I was able to convince him to join me. I then rode him back to the trial location, destroying poacher barricades along the way. When we made it to the trial location, the Lord of the Shore was able to open the trial door. I went into the trial ready to solve a bunch of puzzles and destroy some statues, but there were none. All I had to do was run right up to the pensive. I viewed the memory and saw how Isadora had been storing pain from many different people, from adults to students. Then the keepers found her repository location and confronted her. A fight broke out, and Isadora was much stronger than all of the keepers. As the keepers were about to fall, Professor Bakar used the killing curse on Isadora, ending her life. After the memory ended, I returned to the map chamber. The keepers explained that they couldn't destroy the magic, and it was a danger to WizardCon. That is how they became keepers, and their job was to keep the secret of the repository from getting into the wrong hands. With the fear of Ranrock being able to get into the final repository, I was sent to get a special wand from Mr. Ollivander. I went to the wand shop and explained what I needed. He began working on it and was able to craft the special wand. As I was leaving, Rookwood appeared and wanted us to work together to stop Ranrock and claim the repository for ourselves. I declined, and one of his men grabbed me and teleported me to a ruin to try to take me out. I fought against all of Rookwood's men, then fought Rookwood himself. We had a test of power where I was able to overpower Rookwood and destroy him. After that, I returned to the map chamber with the wand. The keepers then opened the door to the final repository, which was actually right below our feet. Professor Fig and I headed down and started searching. We had to fight our way through against many of Ranrock's loyalists, but to be honest, there was an entire army down there. Out of nowhere, my professors all started showing up to help us get to the repository. It was amazing to see all of my professors using the skills that they had taught me to help us get to our goal. Professor Fig and I eventually made it to a door where two really dangerous looking statues were ready to destroy anyone that came close. Since I had the wand, we were allowed to pass. Then we encountered Ranrock, who had already harnessed the power of the repository inside. Ranrock transformed into some kind of magic dragon and started attacking us. A large boulder fell on Professor Fig and he was gone. I angrily chased Ranrock to end this madness. We started to fight, and I used everything I could to fight him. I eventually found a weakness in his magic and started exploiting his weakness. He tried to run away, but I chased him and we had the final showdown. We both fought hard, and we used every ounce of energy we had left. Over time, I was able to finally get the upper hand and defeat Ranrock. But the cavern began to collapse and would destroy the repository. So I used my magic to try to contain the power. I held on as long as I could, and when I was about to fall, suddenly Professor Fig appeared and he helped me. We worked together to contain the magic, but the magic started attacking Professor Fig. So I used everything in myself to contain the magic. Unfortunately, Professor Fig was killed by the magic's attacks. Later, I returned to Hogwarts and attended a dinner dedicated to Professor Fig and what he had done. The headmaster was speaking, but as usual, he was messing everything up. So Professor Weasley stepped in to honor Professor Fig's sacrifice. Then we all toasted to Professor Fig. After the celebration, I spoke with Sebastian, and I told him that it was Victor Rookwood who's the one who cursed Anne. From there, my life at Hogwarts was pretty normal. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.